Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. We are back here at Studio 130 at ITR Live, headquarters in Central Iowa. Welcome back for another fun-filled, action-packed episode of Iowa's favorite conservative podcast. I'm here on take two with John Hendrickson and Chris Ingstead. The mantra we have around here of whatever, let's go, didn't really work this time. So we had to backtrack, delete, re-record. It's been a week, guys, but welcome back.
Thank you.
It's really good to be back.
I know. It's just almost giddy to get back at this today. So we had a long weekend, had a chance to relax. What did you guys do over Memorial Day weekend, John?
I went fishing and then I helped plant some gardens.
That's great. And this is you went back home, right?
Yes, yeah.
So
yeah.
Back to the frozen tundra, which isn't frozen right now.
That's right. Yeah.
So I've heard it joked in that area that spring lasts about a week. So is this spring up there, or is it fully summer?
No, it was the final week of spring.
Okay.
And I've never seen mosquitoes as bad as I had experienced them this past weekend. I mean, it was just my brother and I were basically eaten alive when we were at the boat landing, and it was just awful.
We got June bugs everywhere at my house. I don't know. I don't remember that in the past, but or at least something that looks and feels like that. Well, good. So summer's rolling. Chris.
Yep. St. Louis.
Nice.
In-laws. Went up to the Arch. That was my first time.
Good. What was your experience with the elevator?
I was worried, Chris. I was a little worried that I would freak out about it, but it was just fine. So
I did it once and never again.
I'm not sure there's a reason to go up a second time.
No. I'm not sure there's a reason to go up the first time. And that's speaking as someone that's a St. Louis native. Sort of. I'm an Iowa native, but I spent some of my early years in St. Louis area. I won't go up in that thing.
I think the family spent as much time looking out kind of the back side of the Arch trying to find the minivan parked below as they did taking in any other sites.
Well, yeah. Okay. Good. Well, it's exciting. I want to move on because we've had a lot of people asking that we need a construction update of what's going on in the courtyard. So we've touched on this in the past of about about 9 months now, maybe, of periodic construction in the courtyard here. John, this is not a laughing matter, okay?
This reminds me of a New Deal project.
Shovel ready, John.
That's right, yeah.
Well, it was shovel ready 9 months ago. Since our last update, we have not seen anything.
No.
Well, they did put out some white flags that are marking something.
Is that our new fiber internet?
I don't know.
Ooh.
That could be.
So that would be, yeah.
That we're I think the only difference I see, in addition to the white flags, I guess, not the only difference, but a fair amount of weeds have grown up. Where the grass is torn up, it's just kind of bare dirt. Now that's covered with weeds.
One would assume that's not by design, but it's hard to tell. So,
I don't know. You have folks in Des Moines proper with no mow May, so it's hard to tell what somebody thinks is landscape.
Yeah. No, it continues to be a mystery. But since people are asking, no update. So we still have a 18-inch high, 2-foot high wall made out of blocks and two separate concrete pads, and the rest of it's just a big pile of weeds. So it's exciting. I feel it's definitely delivering value as tenants of this property. I feel a lot more. It's just a lot better place to be.
Did you have amenities, Chris?
Yeah, it's all about the amenities.
Some cities' economic development directors behind this one.
Is this the commercial real estate version of a welcome sign? Like, it's a welcome to our community with lighted sign. We get a concrete thing. I don't know.
I was waiting for the furniture so I could get my well-done hamburger.
Nice. Well, you hope that this is some sort of cooking patio, but I don't know.
Was there any listeners that won the contest?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So we had a winner, which and the timing could not be perfect because we're actually going to get this winner in studio. this week. Did you guys know this?
No.
Friday, 10 a.m.
State Representative Bill Gustav was the winner, who was. I can't remember the time and the place.
It's 9 o'clock. Matlock is on 9 a.m. on weekdays.
So we verified it. And so Representative Gustav, if you're out there, congratulations. And I'm not sure that Representative Gustav knows that he's going to be on the next episode of the podcast, but I think he is a regular listener. So when you come in the office here on Friday, bring your
The unfortunate
thing.
The unfortunate thing is our MediaCom cable has not worked here for about a week. So there's been no opportunity for John to catch up on Matlock now that we know the time.
Yeah. Although I will say it was I came in to turn on the TV in here because I put the logo up for those of you that listen to us and don't see the video. I've got the logo on the TV behind me, and I turned it on and it was on Me TV.
Were you actually getting programming?
No.
I assume MediaCom's going to send us a refund check for all the days of no service. For all the Matlock you missed? Yeah. I'll send him an itemized note on behalf of John.
Okay.
That's right.
Well, okay, let's get down to business. So the thing this is John's first day back in the office. We're here on Wednesday because he took a couple of days of vacation to get back home. But I've wanted to get John's take on the debt ceiling and the increase in the deal, because I have a few thoughts, but I've got some notes on what it actually does or doesn't do. I think the problem with these giant bills that are done late is there's always a bunch of stuff in there that you don't know about that sort of comes to light after the fact. But I'm going to let you talk about this and whether it's worthwhile or not, or it's your turn, John.
Well, it's a major bill, 99 pages, 100 pages, somewhere around there, and which is probably small in compared to some recent bills that Congress has passed in the last few years. But I think there's a number of ways to approach this. We were talking about this in pre-production, and I tend to agree with some of the conservatives that don't like this deal and I think there's precedent to support this because it's one, going into this, I thought the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, had momentum and he had public opinion on his side to get more out of this compromise. And I know we have to consider that because there is divided government. But
so you're saying that we go into this knowing we're going to have to reach some level of compromise.
Yes, okay. Yes. But I think they caved, and so I agree with the conservative criticisms. And this might be a harsh one, but there was a quote from Rand Paul that I want to read. In quoting Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, fake conservatives agree to fake spending cuts. And Paul is going to offer an amendment, which probably won't pass, but to try to bring some spending reductions. And so it's being sold as a $40 billion spending reduction and freezing spending to 2022 levels, as well as clawing back some COVID money. But when you actually
back to the days of 2022 when we really held the reins on spending,
the halcyon days of
for those days
budget discipline.
But here's the part so the $40 billion sounds like a big number, but actually they allow defense spending to continue to increase as well as VA spending, and so really it translates only to a reduction of about $12 billion. Now, here's the other thing, and you can call this fuzzy math or accounting gimmicks because there's no agreement on what this actually does. What it does do, and I agree with Governor Ron DeSantis when he said this does not, we're still headed toward bankruptcy. And I'm not quoting DeSantis exactly, but this is what he said yesterday, is that, that really doesn't solve any of our problems. And it allows the debt to continue to increase by $4 trillion. Is that conservative? No. And so another quote I want to read is by Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky. And he says, and I quote, "We'll be taking out a second mortgage this week to pay off the credit cards, but it's not until September that we're actually buying the bass boat, the tanning bed, and the big screen TV." And so this is what this deal does. It does not it does not address spending at all, and it removes the cap actually on the debt ceiling. So basically, will trigger future spending. And here's some interesting things.
You're just for the folks who didn't see, John's now has flipped over. He's on the second page of his type.
Yeah,
John comes prepared. The rest of us just sort of wing it.
In 2011, there was a bipartisan deal to supposedly cut federal spending by 38 billion. Never happened. 2015, there was another deal that was negotiated with then President Obama. Republicans said, well, this is going to rein in spending. Did not happen. So I can't fault conservatives for being suspicious of this. And the other thing is Senator Mike Lee has read in the details of this bill and some of the regulatory reforms that Republicans are claiming are good. If you actually look in the weeds, which Senator Mike Lee has done, the small print allows certain administration officials, especially the director of the Office of Management and Budget, to waive those regulatory oversight rules that are agreed to. So, there's
so they can put the red tape back on.
Yes, yeah, and so it's this compromise reminds me of one of my favorite Christmas specials. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh yeah.
And the abominable snowman. It's this debt deal is like the abominable snowman with his teeth pulled, and so he's basically harmless. He's a humble bumble now, and that's what this debt deal do. So I
thought you were going to make Congress the island of misfit toys.
Well, this is I think, and what's frustrating about this is, the media is portraying, conservatives such as Representative Chip Roy or Senator Mike Lee or Rand Paul. There's all these radical right people are they're going to move us away from moderation. This debt deal. Well, I think they bring up some good points because this is a serious issue and we cannot continue to spend like that. So as DeSantis said and as other conservatives have said, this is the Republicans are allowing a $4 trillion increase in the debt as a result of this. That is not conservative.
So I agree, John, that we should be skeptical, and especially skeptical of the spin or the sales of the deal afterwards. It certainly doesn't do as much as I suppose those voting for the deal would have you believe. We talked the questions. If you're a member of Congress, would you vote for it? And John, I think you were leaning towards a no vote on the deal. I probably would lean towards a yes vote, and I try not to disagree with John. It's just standard practice, but the spending's already been done. This is just, you got the credit card bill. You already bought the bass boat and the big screen TV and all the stuff. And now you just have to pay the bill. So the bill's due. And we pay our bills. Now, is this an opportunity to hopefully try and make some changes so that you don't have the same credit card bill the next time? Well, yes, ideally. And I guess my reservation is I still don't know what else is in this, because there are some things which at least back up a little bit of some of the spending that we've seen over the early, the beginning of the Biden administration. There was a little bit done on work requirements for SNAP benefits. If you're an able-bodied adult, you should have to work. Pulled back some of the increase in the IRS funding increase from before. That was a big deal. So I mean, there's some stuff in there.
What takeaway do you want to have on this, right? Because we actually got asked to sign on sort of two competing different takes on this, right? Both from groups that would say they're conservative.
And as way back, we get invited from time to time from national interest groups. Would you sign our letter? We're pinning this letter to send off in support of or opposed to something. Would you like to join? We get these things from time to time.
And so one group that's actually against it from the conservative standpoint, so would probably view things very similar to how John just explained them. They frame up the IRS agent funding as they're still going to get 98% of the IRS agent funding, right? Right. And that's a big increase, right, from past years. But then the other side, who's for this and thinks this makes some good conservative reforms, would tell you that like this is good because they've reduced the IRS funding. And so one side says 2% cut is a 2% cut, and that's good. I don't know what dollars that translates to. The other side says, well, yeah, but they still get 98% of a supersized IRS. Not good. One side touted the welfare reform because these are sort of Republican-style reforms. The other one said that it's basically not enough, that they only added a bit. And so in addition to the fuzzy math, because I'm not sure what side to believe, different sort of projections on what it does or does not cut, but even the things they can agree on the facts, one side is sort of viewing that like glass half full, and the other is glass half empty. And so again, it's really, what is your overall perspective on this? Do we need to take a harder line, or should we be thankful we made any incremental progress? And I guess we can leave that up to each listener to decide for themselves.
There were a couple of things that, at least I noted, that Speaker McCarthy had fought for and did not get in this deal that were priorities, which were work requirements on Medicaid or generally, and pulling back some of the Green New Deal tax credits. And those were just off limits. Although Senator Manchin got his fast track permitting for coal. So, that we could do a whole episode on that all on its own. But I agree, guys. I don't think there's a lot here. I just think that we have. Let me put it this way. If it was just a clean debt ceiling increase all on its own, I might even feel better about that, because like, yep, we spent it, bills due, and maybe we could have got more out of this. I don't know.
But now they even removed the caps, and that's dangerous. I mean, basically it's just basically giving a blank check now, and hoping that these so-called cuts will actually occur, and that's probably not going to happen.
The underlying problem is they spend way too much, and that's not changing. And it might not change. It might not matter what regime is in charge at DC. The spending will continue because, as you pointed out this morning, John, the American people want the spending.
Yeah,
they like the spending more than they're worried about the debt. They just where we're at.
What does that look like? Right. So let's go into that a little bit. And they'll always hold up defense as number one, right? I mean, that's, and then probably Social Security,
or Ukraine's
Medicare,
defense,
right?
but
But that's sort of the national federal government equivalent of like, well, police and fire, layoffs.
Yes,
right.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
But guys, if we hit a wall, we actually hit a wall, and John, you always use the term austerity. If you can stop the giggles, we hopefully can get you back here. What will that look like, right? Where will the federal government turn if and when they have to make some real cost savings measures? Are we going to dry dock all of our aircraft carriers and those sort of things, or where will they look to save money? I tend to think it won't actually be defense.
Yeah, and that's the dangerous part, and actually the right question to ask, because when you start doing austerity, and you, in a sense, basically have to force cuts, that could come from a number of programs that will impact the states as well, because we know there's a large chunk of money. In fact, I should have brought the chart in, but I can't remember now. But I mean, over our budget now is Iowa's budget is $8.5 billion roughly. We get more than that from the feds, and so you will start seeing austerity would mean a lot of money the federal government sends the states would be cut, which would impact a lot of programs, especially in terms of the healthcare side.
So then our
transportation.
So then our state legislature would have to decide if they're going to step in and fill those gaps a little bit. So people continue to receive.
And also, a lot of a large percentage of the federal budget is tied up in entitlement spending of, with Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid, and you would most likely probably see cuts to those types of programs.
Yeah, I think that's right. I want to jump in. Just raw numbers on what we're facing. The deficit, the budget deficit, the ongoing year over year is a $1.4 trillion deficit. The federal debt which is the debt ceiling we just hit, or was getting close to, is 31.4 trillion. So you'd add the 1.4 on. The unfunded, or the the liability for Social Security and Medicare is $75.3 trillion. So we can talk about the debt. Almost double that on the other side is what we're looking at having to find a way to fill on Social Security and Medicare. So you're right. I think it's funding to states in some of the block grant dollars, and it is at some point, and we've talked about this before, but Social Security and Medicare are going to force really difficult decisions on Congress.
This was the centerpiece of Lindsey Graham's 2016 campaign.
Right. Nobody wants to campaign on cuts to senior health care or senior retirement programs. That's not very popular.
Is that why Lindsey Graham didn't get very far?
No, and it's probably why we're seeing Republicans attacking other Republicans for even uttering the words in our presidential primary. But the grown-up thing to do, if we were responsibly running a family budget or even a business, would be to like, we got all these liabilities and we are spending more than we take in, and we are headed on a really bad course. The grown-up thing to do would be to start trying to really think about how to fix this. Because what we've got is, okay, we had to pay the bill, and so we're going to dress up a few little cuts in a way to kind of make people think that we're serious about this. It's the most we could get out of Joe Biden, who would have preferred to spend even more if he could have gotten away with it. Like, the whole thing is broken. Let's not pretend that there's a version of this bill that does anything to fix the problem. I mean, it just runs too deep. So there's your happy thought for the day. But as Chris mentioned, the real, it's all a concern, but this is going to come to our doorstep here in Iowa, and we have done the right thing. We have worked to cut taxes, to align spending with ongoing revenue, and done all those things right. And at some point, the dysfunctional federal government's going to say, "Oh yeah, but we're going to pull the rug out from underneath you." Mm-hmm. It's coming. It might be 10 or 20 years down the road.
Yeah. And that's the scary part. Nobody knows, how high can that debt get before, it causes a collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're, 31.4 trillion is, unheard of. I mean, I don't think Americans really realize it, because it's hard to comprehend that. And it's almost like the story of the boy calling wolf all the time, because you have a few deficit hawks out there that keep sounding the alarm, but then nothing really happens. So people get used to the idea, well, you can just keep spending. And we talked on a few episodes ago about the modern monetary theory that just says that government can continue to spend without consequences. And unfortunately, I think we're going to run into a situation of whether we're going to really see the consequences of that theory, because under both parties, the spending has continued to grow.
There's always consequences. There always are. So,
and it's the same thing with the trade deficit. Nobody cares about that either, and we had a record on that, over $1 trillion.
There's the other one I wanted this morning, John, when we were talking about this. So, you talked about us getting off the gold standard.
Yes, yeah.
Tariffs.
Yeah.
But you didn't mention trade policy. And now here we're in the podcast, you skip right past ditching the gold standard and the tariffs, and now you're over here to trade. I mean, I want you to hit the trifecta all at once.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Not today.
Not today. At some point, we're going to have the John Hendrickson immigration special, and we're going to have the John Hendrickson trade policy special, and then we're going to have, now I'm on the list, we're going to have the John Hendrickson gold standard special.
Those will be the highest rated programs.
Oh, without question. All right. Well, that's all the time we got for today, gentlemen. I appreciate it. We're going to try and get back to a little bit more of a regular production schedule around here. But thank you all for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.